Power of eternity. There is a documentary or docuseries, whatever you want to call it, on Netflix. I think it's called The Power of Eternity. I also may have just made that up, but it is on Netflix. I think you can find clips of it as well. It basically talks about how if you take an apple, right? You take this apple and you put it in a box. The apple starts to degrade, right? Over time, that apple will break down and break down and break down till it becomes, atoms and then subatomic particles. And then it will exist in all of these different shapes and take on different forms, but those same particles don't go anywhere, right? Matter can't be created or destroyed. Everything is sort of fixed. So it will change and change and change and change until eventually it becomes that same apple again. That is the power of infinity. You give something enough time and eventually the thing repeats. Now, when I watched that documentary, I was like, that's fucking amazing, right? Because I had to cuss for emphasis because that's how amazing I thought it was. Because given enough time, if an apple can disintegrate and reform into an apple again, then we are immortal. This, in my opinion, shoots any of these arguments by any sort of materialist. In fact, it takes a materialist model and uses it to support the concept and the idea of life after death. Because it takes materialist sort of ideas and says, okay, yeah, if everything is all matter and matter cannot be created or destroyed, then when an apple disintegrates, given enough time, right, that apple will become and reform into an apple again. That is the power of infinity. Brian Greene talked about something to this effect on his book, I think Until the End of Time, something like that. But he said that the reason why, or he theorized that the reason why our universe exists in the way that it did is just, well, you give something enough time and eventually a universe like this will come along. He called it a statistical fluke. And I'm saying, take that idea and take it to the logical conclusion that if a world like this, a perfectly ordered world like this, can just emerge, right, because of the power of infinity, then that same power of infinity will make it so that our entire reality in the exact same way, in the exact same pattern, me even having this conversation with you right now, the series of causes and effects that led to me recording this podcast right now and you watching it at this present moment, all of these sort of domino pieces that get tick, will happen again, given enough time. So then the logical conclusion is, well, what makes you think that this is the first time such a statistical fluke has occurred? And given enough time, a statistical fluke no longer becomes a fluke. Giving enough time over eternity, a statistical fluke becomes a pattern. This whole world will repeat over and over and over and over again, given enough time. That is the magnificent power of infinity. So even if you're an atheist, even if you don't believe in God, even if you believe that all of this, all of our reality, everything in this life, the universe and everything, life, the multiverse and everything happened by accident, by happenstance, by fluke. It's all a fluke. Well, what makes you think that this is the first time such a fluke occurred? Well, then if that's the case, I will exist as this form, as this consciousness experiencing life, as this body, as Jolie, as Joe. And I will say these same words, and I've said these same words over and over and over again. And that is also discussed in Nietzsche's idea, his theory of the eternal return. Woo!